Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wimpy Studio. Today I'm here to talk about Cobra Kai Season 6, Episode 3, and it is called Sleeper. So I would say overall this was a pretty good episode. I was pretty surprised. I thought going into it was going to be a really big filler. We had like the sleepover, which was kind of filler itself, but it actually led to something good. And then the Miyagi stuff was very interesting, and everything in South Korea was pretty interesting too. I especially liked that fight with Kwon and the other students at the end. So I'm looking forward to talking about this with you guys. So let's start with the sleepover stuff. So basically, Sam and Tory have kind of gotten soft. They're friends. They're just they've kind of lost that spark to them. All these seasons they've been fighting and they've had so much pent up anger against each other, and now all of that anger has vanished. And Johnny doesn't think that they will make good tournament players, so he wants to get them to toughen up again and to reunite that spark in them. So he hosts a sleepover with Devin in hopes of creating drama between them to get them to fight it out and to get them to, be angry again. I feel like Johnny was like his intentions were awful. Like Sam and Tori, sure it ended up leading to something good. They apologized to each other and everything, but I feel like they were in a good place and they didn't need that drama between them. And I think they were perfectly fine how they were. Sure, they were kind of soft on each other, but that's understandable after everything that's happened. Like, there's just this awkwardness between them when they're trying to fight. It's just so they don't have a reason to hate each other anymore. So, like, I don't think Johnny should have been trying to force that on them. But Johnny, that's pretty typical of Johnny to try to do something like that. So I'm not really surprised. But basically, we get this girls just want to have fun montage with the sleepover, and that was pretty fun. I like that. And then I got that song stuck in my head, and it's still kind of stuck on my head. And yeah, my mom and my niece and my sister all have shirts that say "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." So it's definitely a good song. I thought it was a great choice to play over that sleepover thing. And then we see that Johnny stole both Miguel and Robbie's phones to send messages to Sam and Tori in hopes of trying to like create drama between the four of them. Now, Sam and Tori are smart enough that they discover that Johnny is behind this, and they both leave the house. Then, while they're waiting for their Ubers, they kind of get into an argument about, I think it starts off with like Tori saying, "Well, it's not the first time you've tried to steal my boyfriend before," which is true. And then they get into this argument. Pretty much, Tori circles back to when Sam accused her of stealing her mom's wallet, and she never apologized. And Sam apologizes and says she should have a long time ago, and that she was jealous and distrustful. And Tori says it was her fault, like all the violence between them, and she apologizes for what she did to her arm. And Sam says her arm's not that bad, and it's faded, just like this thing between them. And that's a great point. It's just, obviously there are these feelings, and like they can never totally forget what happened between them because it was just so much drama and it was so intense, and it left a scar on Sam's arm, and it left Tori's heart broken. Like these are some serious things, but through everything, they're able to move on and try to start fresh. And I think it shows how much they have both grown, but especially Sam for being the one to apologize first was something meaningful. Because she did start the rivalry, and sure, Tori did worse things in it, but Sam did take responsibility for what she did, and I thought that was very impactful for her character. And Tori apologizing and actually meaning it was also very impactful. So I thought that was a really well done scene, and Mary and Peyton did a great job of playing that out. And Johnny sighing when he saw Sam and Tori hugging was whatever. I wasn't a big fan of him in this episode. It just he was so good in episodes 1 and 2, and I feel like this is where he starts to deteriorate as a character, like starts to regress, which is a bummer. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of like the first plot line. Overall, I enjoyed it. I thought there was great growth for both characters, and I loved that scene where they hugged. Great job from both of them. So the next plot line is the whole Miyagi plot line. So this is very interesting. We have Daniel, Chosen, and Amanda discovering a box of Miyagi stuff underneath a floorboard, and they open it and they find all this information, like someone named Kisuke Miyagi with a different birth date, and this is very suspicious. And they have boxing gloves there with an address on them. So they go to the boxing gym, and then they chase after a guy who's sus, and then we find out that Mr. Miyagi and this guy's grandfather were friends, and he owned a boxing gym. Apparently, he fled America after stealing a necklace, which there was something about a robbery in that box. So this is very interesting, and I see a lot of mixed feelings about this online. They think this is character assassinating Miyagi. You know, he was such a good guy. Why are they trying to ruin his character? To me, I don't mind it because we get to see a different side of Miyagi, and we always see Daniel talking about how good of a person he was, and Miyagi was a great guy. There's no denying that. Well, I guess after even I don't know. This whole thing, this whole revelation or whatever, this whole theory definitely makes it seem like he wasn't the greatest guy in the world. So I do think this is going to last through the season, and I think this is not like I think Daniel's going to discover more, and I do think it's going to turn out to be Mr. Miyagi was still a good guy, but I do think, like everyone, he has a past, and he's things he's probably not proud of, and things he didn't want to tell Daniel. So I do think they're kind of setting it up like the overall message to be like everyone makes mistakes, even Mr. Miyagi did, and and it's a great character arc for Daniel, who he's always believed the best in Mr. Miyagi, and now he's starting to believe the worst. In episode 5, for example, he's thinking worst case scenario about what all this means with Miyagi. So I think it's a great storyline. But what it does lead to is Amanda saying we got to make most of the time that we have and to stop worrying about all of this. But Daniel can't, and this continues into future episodes. And Chosen's kind of listens to Amanda's advice and thinks, okay, I got to make most of my time. So he calls Kumiko, and we don't see him again after this. So he's just off. Maybe him and Kumiko made up and are together now. That'd be really cool. But yeah, I thought it was a really good storyline and definitely a great setup for something really good and meaningful. So the final plot line is in Korea. We have Kreese and Kim Daeun, and they're training the students, and we have this top student named Yoon. He's really good, but then there's a student named Kwon, and he is a troublemaker, but he is also very good. But he like to disrupt class. He doesn't follow Kim Daeun's instructions. He clearly wants to be like the alpha or the elite. Like he wants to be the top dog. And we've seen this before in this show, but I do think Kwon is really interesting. He's something we haven't seen before. This is a totally new, different environment. But my guess is that a lot of these kids have been training since they were young, where most of the teens that we know in this show, besides maybe Sam, have all started training like a year ago in timeline. So I do think that Kwon and maybe you and maybe a few of the others are actually a real threat to our Miyagi-Dos, and I think they're a force to be reckoned with, and we saw that when Kwon beat up the other guys or his other people in his dojo, and yeah, that was a great fight, like really well done, some great martial arts there. So yeah, I think Kwon is a very interesting character, and I like that scene where Kreese tells him take all that anger and give it purpose, um, or power and give it purpose, something like that. And he does, and he delivers an exceptional fight. And yeah, it was overall a good storyline. I think I heard people say that their favorite part of the episode was the Kwon fight, and in fact, their favorite fight of the whole season so far was the Kwon fight. And I have to really think back, and like I don't know if it's my favorite or not, but it was a very good fight, and it's a great setup because we have Kreese respecting Kwon now, and Kwon respecting Kreese, and I think you can relate to Kwon a lot. He wants attention. He's not getting the attention because there's another top dog in the class. But the ending, he takes that top dog spot. So it's a great setup. Now I don't know how much more we're going to be getting with Kwon and Yoon and like their dojo by itself, because we're going to be seeing um obviously interactions between them and the Miyagi-Dos, but I don't know much about like just them, their dojo. But I think next in the next part we will see more rivalries between Miyagi-Dos and the Cobra Kai. So I think this is the best direction that they could go again because they kind of wrote themselves into a corner, but now they're introducing real threats for the Miyagi-Dos and having Kreese and Kim Da-eun teach. I think it was a great decision. So I'm really glad that they went that route instead of like I don't know trying to make them do it in the valley. It just wouldn't have had the same ring to it. So yeah, I would say this was a great episode. I'm gonna give it a 9.5, maybe. It was very strong. I love the Sam and Tory stuff. The Miyagi stuff was great. The Kwon stuff was great too. So yeah, comment down below what did you think of episode 3, and I'll be back next Monday to talk about episode 4. So thanks everyone for listening, and Cobra Kai never dies. See ya.